Puchero is an easy and healthy chicken and vegetable soup recipe from Argentina. It's low sodium as well, so if your New Year's resolution is to eat healthier, this is the perfect chicken soup recipe this winter. If you're curious, take a look.
The first step in making puchero is making the vegetable stock, but feel free to use store-bought. All I do is I add 1 small carrot, 1 small onion, 2 cloves of garlic, a small celery stalk, and 1 bay leaf to 3 cups of water. I then set the timer for 1 to 1.5 hours, and then I turn on the heat to high. Once the stock comes to a boil, then I turn it down to low, gas mark 2 out of 6, and simmer it for the remaining time. Although 1 hour is okay, I think 1.5 is probably ideal. After straining the stock and cooling it completely, I then added 3 pieces of chicken, 2 legs, and 1 thigh. After adding a 1/4 teaspoon each of salt and pepper, I set the timer for half an hour, turned on the heat to high, bring it to a roaring boil, and then turn it down to medium 3 out of 6 for the rest of the half hour. After the chicken had been cooking for half an hour, I then add the vegetables. Unlike locro, in which the vegetables disintegrate almost totally, or carbonara, in which the vegetables disintegrate to an extent, the idea of a puchero is that everything remains whole. So it's important to cut the vegetables larger and not cook them for too long. At this point in making the chicken soup, I cut potatoes, sweet potatoes, and squash into pieces that were about 1 inch thick and added them to the chicken, along with a few small onions and a few cloves of garlic. Although I also prepped corn, celery, and carrot, I added those later. However, if you really wanted to, I think you could add the carrots at this point. After adding the vegetables, I realized I needed a bigger pot, so I put everything into a larger pot. And actually, in all honesty, this was a different time that I made my puchero chicken soup with vegetables, because this time I decided to cut down the calories a bit, and so I removed most of the chicken skin. But the process is the same. Starting with cold vegetable stock, boil the chicken for half an hour, add the root vegetables, and boil for half an hour. So at this point, the chicken soup had been on the heat for a full hour. Some impurities rose to the top of the chicken soup, so I skimmed those off as well. Like I said, at this point, the root vegetables had boiled for an hour, and the chicken had boiled on its own for half an hour. So it was time to add the corn and the celery, along with the carrot. I'm not big on carrots or celery, so I didn't add that much. However, if you really like them, go ahead and add more. Unlike some recipes, Argentine chicken puchero is a fairly flexible chicken soup, so you can add different vegetables if you want. I've seen some puchero recipes with red bell pepper, Swiss chard, and even chickpeas. And even though my puchero is a chicken soup with vegetables, it doesn't have to be chicken. It's very common to see beef, especially beef shank puchero, or you could even do pork. You could even include sausages as well. However, like I said earlier in the video, the idea of a puchero is for everything to stay whole, so the trick is to use pieces of meat or sausages and vegetables that are large enough to not fall apart, and also large enough for you to be able to boil them long enough to form a lightly flavored broth. Food historians think that puchero originated in Spain, and that it was a way for low-income people to use up what they had. When the Spanish arrived in South America, the early settlers started incorporating vegetables from this hemisphere, like corn and squash, into their puchero. In Argentina, chicken puchero is a very common winter recipe, and from what I've seen, I feel like puchero still has the connotation of being a people's recipe, something that everyone can afford to make and enjoy. In fact, in modern-day Argentina, there's a phrase, ganar el puchero, which translated literally to English means to earn the puchero. Figuratively, the phrase means to earn a living, to make enough money to make ends meet, so it's interesting how an easy and inexpensive soup recipe has become synonymous with making enough money to live. The history of puchero aside, this chicken and vegetable soup was delicious. Everything remained whole and retained its own flavor, but was still very lightly influenced by everything else because of the broth. Although some people in Argentina serve the meat, vegetables, and broth of a puchero all individually, I think serving everything together is best. However, you will have a lot of broth left over, but don't worry, I'll let you know what you can do with that coming up. Although I think this chicken and vegetable soup recipe is awesome on its own, you could dress it up a bit if you wanted to. You could add some Argentine mustard. It's a bit different than American mustard in that it has a more complex flavor profile, so I'll be getting into that in the future. It's absolutely delicious. Or you could top it off with some vinaigrettes. Here I have a simple vinaigrette of sunflower oil, red wine vinegar, paprika, and crushed red pepper. And here I have another simple vinaigrette of sunflower oil, red wine vinegar, oregano, and crushed red pepper, all to taste. However, honestly, I think the beauty of a puchero is that it's very lightly flavored, and I think that if you put something on it, it kind of takes away from the whole idea of eating a puchero. Like I said earlier, you might be wondering what to do with the leftover broth after finishing the chicken and vegetables from this puchero soup. Well, here's an idea. Although it may seem weird, a common use for the broth of a puchero is to use it to make oatmeal. Although I've never heard of people in the United States using leftover broth from chicken soup to make oatmeal, trust me, it's delicious. But if you're not feeling adventurous, you could use the broth to make rice or for boiling pasta. Really, the possibilities are endless. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. For more information about this and other recipes, please visit my website, parnellthechef.com. And don't forget to follow me on social media. Once again, thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.